Everybody, welcome back to the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I am your host, Uncle Hondo, the Las Vegas Raiders beat writer with my assistant beat writer and friend, the one and only the best, Ezekiel Trezevant. Zeke, how you doing, brother?
I know, doing well, man. How about yourself?
Good. Now, before we kick into this, I had a lot of people ask. I had, all right, you
Okay.
disappeared for a second. All right, you're back. I had Aiden Champion, Carter Landis, and Braden Reedy with me in Indianapolis. And people were asking, why isn't Zeke there? Is he in trouble? I said, no, he's not in trouble. It was his decision not to come. I offered to take him. Would you not tell them that so I can get the hounds off my rear?
Yeah, man. You guys have to let Hondo live. Hondo invited me months ago. I just have to stay back in Vegas and take care of some things. But yeah, it's all good, all love. But definitely that was originally the plan was for me to be in Indy. Some things just came up. That's it.
All right, because I'm just telling you, the Zeke Minion army was after me, man. Why isn't Zeke there? I said, Zeke here. All right, good deal. All right. So we had to delay this taping 5 minutes because I was on the phone. And I want to talk to you about it because there is a prospect here at camp here at the combine who it's over now, but who I know very well. Okay, I've known him many, many, many years. So he interviews with the Raiders. And he calls me and he says to me, you got a minute? I said, yeah. And he goes, I want to tell you something. You've told me how awesome you enjoy covering the Raiders. I said, yeah. He goes, they are incredible. I said, you got to tell me about this. He said, my entire interview with them, we didn't really talk football. They wanted to get to know me as a man. He goes, it was a great conversation. It's like sitting on a bar stool with three guys drinking a beer and just they wanted to get to know me, the person. He said, they're like, we know what you can do. We watched your tape. You've had, multiple coaches. And that really floored me because you don't hear that a lot. And that's a lot of the Telesco approach. He told me earlier in the week, last week, he's just, we know what these guys can do. I don't need to sit there and watch them run a 40. I can put the film in and watch it for myself if it's a guy we're interested in. I get a list of everybody's times. I know they're 3-cone. To me, that was some great insight into Telesco and how he's going to do this. I'd love to hear what you think.
So, from what I understand in terms of Tom Telesco and how he does things, I feel like he's in terms of watching the film, you know how there's gym rats. I feel like Tom is a film rat, in the sense of he's going to watch film and film and film and film and film, and I feel like he trusts his gut and he trusts his own experience and history and judgment to the point where, like you said, the other things that they measure at the combine don't really matter to him as much as his eye test in terms of watching the film and seeing what there is that the player does well. So that sounds like Tom Telesco. I feel like that fits his personality in terms of just wanting to know how the guy operates. And I think you can learn a lot more about a player when you ask them questions outside of their everyday norm of football, right? So ask them questions that have nothing to do with the game. And I think that puts all the pieces together for a guy like Telesco. He watches the film, he breaks that down, and then he combines that with, hey, this guy actually has a great conversation. He's an intellectual guy when we talk to him, etc.
All right. So Zeke, here's another thing that really intrigued me. Is the Raiders were on the lips of everybody at the combine. Fans, prospects. I can't tell you the number of prospects without us even asking. Brought up what AP was doing. Dan Campbell, D'Amico Rons, those guys got talked about a lot as well. But I mean, talking about Telesco, talking about AP, it is nice. And you are a Raider fan. I'm not, but it's got to be nice for you as a Raider fan and a guy that covers the team that your team's now being talked about and it's not being Raiders. It's being talked about. Put some respect on that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, first of all, starting point is this: it's still the Raiders, no matter what. with them being the Raiders, they're always going to be talked about because they're just one of those top 5, 6 organizations in the league. They're always going to be talked about. But you're right. It does, as we would say, as the kids would say, it hits a little different when everything that's coming out, or a lot of the things that are coming out, are more positive, and it's not a negative tone of or a negative connotation about the Raiders. They're coaching this, or the players that, or this quarterback, or whatever, this receiver. It's good when it's positive. And like you said, to have people who don't necessarily have a whole lot to do with the organization still be talking about the Raiders in a positive light, that's huge. I mean, at the end of the day, Hondo, like, we're invested in this too, right? Whether we're fans or not, we invest time away from the family, especially during the season. We're invested in this too. So, as much as we're not necessarily tied to the team like that, we are to a certain degree, and we want to hear positive things about those guys as well. So it definitely feels good.
All right, Zeke, I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit here. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for the Raiders to get up to the top three to get Jaden Daniels. But as you know, weeks ago, I gave out my first mock and had JJ McCarthy going first pick of the second round to the Raiders. And I put on there that an executive told me they have him rated much higher. But if the draft were the day that I wrote the mock, you could get him there. But his team does not need a quarterback. But the guys who I speak to from teams that are good quarterback drafters, all of them had JJ as 1 or 2 on their board. He has flown up the boards. He killed it in interviews, killed it in workouts. He is the real deal. So I'm going to ask you right now, because it looks like Chicago's is pretty locked in that they're going to want Caleb. I'm hearing that the Commanders like Caleb first, Jaden second, then Drake May third. I think that the Patriots would love to get Caleb. I mean, would love to get Jaden, but they would also be very happy with Drake. So it looks like nobody's going to move up into the top three. So if you're the Raiders, what would you do if you're Tom Telesco? Are you trying to move to 4 or 5? Or to get a JJ? Are you going to stay at 13? I want to know. Take me inside the Trezevant vast, narrow ways of mind control. What are you doing with this pick?
Listen, man, I know a lot of people probably don't want to hear it, but I'm all with them staying at 13. Now, obviously, trading up is going to be an option, but like you said, trading up to 3, even really top 5, probably in my opinion, I think that would be mortgaging way too much for the Raiders. They're way too close to make that kind of a move. Could they potentially, in my opinion, move up to 10, 8, 9, 10, possibly, but I don't think there's a need for that. I think if they stay at 13, and listen, cornerback, linebacker, maybe an offensive line. And I honestly think it's probably in that order, unless you want to switch cornerback and linebacker. You can switch those two at 13 and get you a stud and help turn that defense, not turn the defense around, but improve the defense even more. Like, the defense is already good. So imagine if you plug in the right cornerback that's a lockdown cornerback, or plug in the right linebacker with Diablo and Spillane. They're going to take the next step. They're right there. So if you ask, I'm nerding out, right? I'm getting excited even thinking about them adding somebody at those positions. So I think at 13, stay there. Don't mortgage the future. Add to your defense, and then use free agency to kind of plug in the other holes in the team.
So I'm going to tell you, at the combine, they paid interest to several positions, but the positions that got the most attention of the Raiders and meeting with the top prospects, so was quarterback, offensive line, defensive line. They met with those guys. They were all over them. And corner, excuse me. So quarterback, corner, offensive and defensive line. I don't think there's any chance. Now, they could, but if they stay at 13, it's a quarterback, offense or defensive line, or corner. How excited would you be if they picked up a Latham or the young man from Oregon State? And I apologize, but with a name like Hondo that you've heard a lot of people butcher, I'm not going to butcher his name, but that kid impressed them a lot. Terry and Arnold, even though he ran a 4.5, I think he'll get down at 4.4 at the Alabama Pro Day. or a JC Latham, which I already mentioned. I mean, or La Leilatu Latu. I think I said that correct. That's a defensive end they may have to move up a little bit for, but there are so many options. And listen, I had a GM tell me we could have as many as 7 quarterbacks go in the first round. He goes, and I only have 2 of the first round grade. He said, because teams are going to overreach. It's going to keep pushing great players down. And he said this to me, Zeke. He said, I asked him, I said, what would you do? He said, I'm staying at 13. He said, because there's going to be some people move up who are going to make some really bad picks. And there's going to be a lot. He said, then I'm going to hope at 13, there's a bunch of picks there. And I can trade down to 20, 21, 22, 23, pick up an extra second rounder, and come out with 2 starters. Your thoughts, Zeke?
The Raiders have, I don't want to say ultimate flexibility, but they have a lot of flexibility in terms of what they can do, whether it's, trading back, and they have flexibility in terms of who they can draft, what position they can draft. It's there for them. Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to them trading back, right? Like you said, trade back a couple of picks, even them going from 13th to 15th or 17th, they could pick up an extra pick or two. And I believe Telesco would hit on those picks if you were able to get those extra picks and fill extra holes on that team. So I think that's what the Raiders should do. I think, and I know it's not the sexy pick, and that's why I keep smiling like this. I know it's not the exciting thing to do necessarily, but you got to think about the long-term future of the team and of the organization. I think they should just stay pat. And then, like you said, at that point, they can pick corner, defensive line, offensive line. They have flexibility there. So I think that's the route they should take.
All right. So, Zeke, for you, what stood out? And you weren't at the combine, so you were looking at it macroly. We were looking at it microly. What stood out from you from the combine?
Yeah, in terms of the combine, it was just a matter of watching how everybody, the one thing I watched the most at a combine is how everyone interacts around each other. The players interact around each other. In terms of specific players, nothing really jumped off the screen to me in terms of the combine itself. But I do like to see how the players react, like I say, when something doesn't go right for them, and they're standing around, the people that they're competing against for a good draft position. So definitely noticed that in terms of the combine, and it was interesting to see.
All right. Now, people always say that when I look down, I'm ignoring you. I'm not ignoring any of your answers. I'm actually looking at a piece of information for my next question. So, here is what I have for you. Michael Lombardi comes out, makes some strong comments about AP. And I'm double checking something here. So give me 1 second because this is important for our conversation. But I'm just curious, what were your thoughts? Now, he worked for the Raiders from 98 to 2006. What were your thoughts on Mr. Lombardi's comp? Now, he's been a Raider. His kids were fired as Raiders. Just curious what you think.
So when I read the comments, it felt personal.
It sure did.
It felt, and why it felt personal, I didn't quite, dig too deep into it, but it felt so personal that I kind of just disregarded the comment. As you know, a lot of people say a lot of different things. And that was really the only true negative that I feel like I've heard, in terms of comments being thrown at AP from other people, really this whole offseason so far. So honestly, for me, I just kind of blew it off, but when you kind of go back and look at it, you definitely have to pick it apart a little bit. Like, why go out on the limb and make those comments, about AP? It seemed like there was much more to it than just the comments, and I'll leave it at that.
It was funny, wasn't it?
Very much so.
I mean, here's a guy that's been critical of the Raiders, and then his kids get hired and he shuts up, which I get that. I'm not going to fault him for that. But then as soon as his kids get canned, back he goes. To me, it just, yeah. Well, I already made my comments, so we'll just leave it there. I just wanted to get it. All right. I was told something by several different NFL coaches, executives that I wanted to run by you because I thought it was very germane. And they talked about, one guy said to me, I loved AP's comments. This is a paraphrase, but it's close to a quote. I loved AP's comments about The one thing about me it's not going to change is me. He is not going to be handled. He does whatever he wants. That PR department ain't going to handle him. He's going to do what he wants when he wants. And then you heard Telesco when he was at, hey, AP's been more vocal than you. He goes, yeah, it kind of works out good because I'm not really that way. But I had so many coaches tell me they respected him. He's not doing it normal, but he's going to do it his way. He said, I know I was hired to be fired, but he talked about, I'm going to do it my way because when it's over, I'm still going to be true to me. And I had so many coaches say, one guy even said to me, I don't even know AP. Never met him. Respected him as a player, but I don't know him. He said, and I already love the guy because he's like, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down guns ablazing, being me. How much do you love that part of
Listen,
Antonio Pierce?
listen, I'm a huge, I'm a huge supporter of that train of thought, right? And when you think about the situation AP was originally put in as interim, he was hired to be fired, and it wasn't necessarily just particular to AP. That's just kind of how it goes when you're the interim. That's just the situation. But like you said, right, if you finally get that opportunity you've been waiting on, and you know you don't have everything in your favor, you're going against a lot of odds that are going against you. Why not do it your way? And then I would also say this: I think it's fitting, right? I think if we look historically, the Raiders have, as an organization, have always done things their way. Like to me, it fits well with AP, right? So on that aspect, it makes sense. And then again, hey, if you're going to put yourself out there, right, in terms of being the head coach, all the blame is falling on you. Why be anybody else but yourself? Why be something that you're not, right? And like you said, at the end of the day, or like AP said, at the end of the day, when this is all over, you don't want to look back and say, "Oh man, I wasn't even myself," or "Oh, I tried to be somebody that was different, and then I still didn't make it." That's the worst feeling to have. At least be yourself, do what you do, stay comfortable in your skin, and let the chips fall where they may. And I love that about AP personally.
I do too. It's refreshing, isn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, 100%.
All right. So here we go now. This is a big one. I'm putting you in the GM chair. You are Tom Telesco, Zeke Trezevant. And you said you would stay at 13, so you're at 13. Who are you picking in the 2024 NFL draft when you send your slip up for the first time? Who are you picking?
I think it's going to be it's Kool-Aid, right? The cornerback from Alabama.
Even though he was found to have a Liz Frank fracture?
Also, my apologies, I didn't know that, but honestly, I think I would still take a chance on him. Honestly, I would. I think what his upside could do for, yes, I know, because it's 13. And I look at it like this: if you put him on that defense with everyone else and still build that defense out, I think it's a good fit.
Terry and Arnold, I could see that, his counterpart,
Mhm.
but not with a Liz Frank. Look at Zeke Trezevant. He's pulling an AP. He's either hitting
Hey,
a home run and getting an extension or he's getting canned in 2 years.
no in between.
No other way to roll, right? Now, next week when you're on the show, I want you to hold up your new Air Force Ones I got you.
Oh, let's go.
And I want
Yes,
you,
sir.
you're
100%.
going to
Thank you
hold them
again.
up. You're welcome. But you're going to hold them up. I want you to show them off. I want Raider Nation to see this is how Zeke's going to roll every day when he comes into the building.
You got it. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again. Thank you in all seriousness, though. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, man. I love you. You know that. All right. Let's talk about AP's interview at the combine. I love the way he answers questions. You never wonder what he thinks. He'll say, I don't want to talk about that. Okay, that's better than lying to me or talking 20 minutes and saying nothing.
Nothing.
But he will take most of the questions and he will answer most of the questions. When you look at the NFL as a whole, when you look at what the Raiders had with Josh McDaniels and John Gruden, I don't even know the words to describe other than I would say refreshing is AP's approach to football. What do you think?
Refreshing is definitely the first word I would use. It gets me excited, and I'm speaking just from the what we do every day. Our job is to report, what comes from the coaches, what comes from the players in terms of their words and what's going on. And when AP came in, I can just speak in terms of how much easier specifically my job became once AP came in, because you can ask, like you said, you can ask him that question and he's not gonna pull your leg. He's not going to BS you, right? He's going to let you know what it is that you need to know. And when somebody can give you the information that you need, makes it fun for you to come into work every day, that just translates throughout the whole entire organization. Like, it was as refreshing as it was for you and I and other people in the media. Imagine how the other people in the organization felt, in the front office felt, that AP's there, and right, and how you kind of turn things around. I think refreshing is definitely the word to use, man. But there's so many other words that you can probably throw out there to explain what AP, in terms of his honesty, and just his transparency, what that does for you. It makes it feel like you can have a genuine conversation with him. And that's a huge thing. I didn't really, personally, I never really got that vibe from McDaniels. Not to knock him by any means, but it just felt like, hey, if I asked McDaniels a question, it's almost like he was going down a list of answers, and that was just what the answer was going to be, and you had to deal with it. It's completely different with AP. You ask him a question, he's going to let you know what it is you need to know. Makes your job a lot easier. Makes you want to come into work. It makes you look forward to the next day of, hey, what's going to happen today, right? So
Yeah.
I love it. I like it, and it makes it exciting.
I asked Tom Telesco a question at the combine, and it got a lot of play nationally. I said, since you finally are here, what has surprised you? I took a lot of criticism for that, which blew me away, because that means what is something good that maybe you didn't see from the outside that now that you're here, wow. And he talked about 17 to 25 guys. And by the way, I had a couple players tell me it's more than that, who are there every day, working out, working hard. And he talked about that, really, really impressed him. I wanted to get your, as soon as he said it, I thought, boy, I wonder what Zeke's going to think of that. What did you think of his answer about? Because I think that's really cool. And then AP expounded on it, talking about really shows you it's family now, it's tight. What'd you think about that answer? And what's that tell you about your Raiders?
Yeah, so what I think it tells us is that the Raiders, the players themselves realize how close they were last year and how close they are in terms of playoff contention. Let me be specific. I think they deep down they know. I think they realize, hey, we were only a game. If you want to be, if you want to go a little bit extra, maybe 2 games away from the playoffs, right? The ball bounced a different way, a couple games. Those guys are in the playoffs, and I think deep down they know that. With that said, this is the time that you make up that 1 to 2 game difference is in the offseason. By the time the season starts, you basically are what you are, right? In terms of physical health, conditioning, etc. I think those guys know this is the time to put in the work, and that's why they're in there like that. Talk about exciting, right? I think those guys were kind of, I don't want to say looking forward to the offseason to kind of heal and get better, etc. But I think they were excited for the opportunity to regroup, right? Get that time off, get their body right, get their mind right, and they're taking advantage of the time off. So I'm expecting big things come next season.
All right. Last question. It's a big one. You talked about you would pick Kool-Aid, but I'm going to ask you to tell us, who do you think Tom Telesco is going to pick?
I don't know. I can't even kind of shoot in the dark on this one, man. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. But this is what I'll tell you though. I'm confident that whatever Telesco does, I think it's gonna be a good move for the team. And I think
Yeah.
he's gonna think long term. I think probably defense again. I feel like he's going defense. What position, what player, I just don't know. I think that's the beauty of having Telesco in there, is that you don't really know what he's going to do, especially with him being here for the first year. You don't really know what he's going to do, but we'll see, Hondo. I have no idea, man. No clue.
You rock. I appreciate you. Next time you're on, you're going to show off your Air Force Ones. But this is Zeke Trezevant, the best assistant beat writer in the world. My guy, my buddy, my friend. Terrific job. Now, Zeke, for people that want to know, what is your X handle?
Yes, sir. It's E as an elephant, Z, so like easy, Trezevant. So easy, and then my last name, Treze, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom.
He is a wonderful guy. If you ever met his wife, you would think he should be a coach, because she is way out of his league, just like me. I like him and I are in the same club when it
Yes, sir.
comes to that. He's a great guy. Remember, follow me on Twitter at Hondo Carpenter, at IG at HondoSRSI.com /. NFL/Raiders. You can read Zeke, you can read me, you can read our other writers. Also, upper right-hand corner, newsletter, click on it. We're never going to spam you. We're going to send you, we're not going to sell your information, but 3 days a week, you'll get an email with all the stories that you may have missed. Never miss another Raiders story again. So from all of us to all of you, God bless you. Have a good day.